Hi, families. Lab lower school students will have the opportunity to participate in a voluntary podcast, and I wanted to give you a little bit of information about it in case you hear them talking about it at home. Well, what is a podcast? It's an audio program like a news or a radio show that's downloaded from the internet. So this is the example I showed the kids.
Welcome to Radio Willowway. We are students from Willowdale Elementary and the Millard Public Schools. This podcast by Ms. Sanborn's 5th graders will be all about the American Revolutionary War. I'm Kiana, and I'll be your host. Let's get right to Brandon in our first segment called In Social Studies Class, since that is where the idea for this podcast came from. Brandon, are you ready to help us as we remember the Revolution? I sure am. In social studies.
Okay, so that was the introduction I gave the kids. And I said, well, what can you talk about and share with your community? One idea is the Book Nook. A book talk, or a Book Nook, that's what I'm calling the segment, is an opportunity for kids to share about a book that they are reading that they're excited about and get other students interested in it. So here's a little demo.
Can you imagine living in a world that's perfect? There's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no extreme weather, and you're extremely and perfectly safe. That's the setting for Lois Lowry's book, The Giver. In this community, there's a boy named Jonas, and he's the main character of the novel. And when people in this community turn 12, they're given a job for the rest of their lives. So in this book, Jonas turns 12, and he is given a very special occupation. I can't tell you exactly what it is without giving away the book. But basically, he has to undergo training by this guy named the Giver, the mysterious bearded man on the front of the book. And while Jonas undergoes this training from the Giver, he starts to learn and grow and realize more and more about his community and the world outside of his community.
So she continues on, but that was just an introduction for the students. I told them to think about a book, and that would be how they'd share it with the class. Next up is talent time. I shared with the kids that a lot of their talents could easily be eliminated from a podcast because they wouldn't be able to be heard, but some examples of good talents that you might share would be a comedy show, playing a musical instrument, singing a song, speaking another language, playing in a band, DJing some music, reading a monologue or a play, at discussing a science experiment. And then I showed the kids this talent that could be heard.
My name is Susu, and I like to do beatbox wild card.
The kids all agreed that was some amazing talent. Next up is Mystery Reader. The cool thing about Mystery Reader is kids can either read something that they've written or something someone famous has written. So examples of things that they've written might be in class or at home. A review on an app or a toy, a play, an opinion piece, an advice column, a how-to piece, a speech, a persuasive piece where they're trying to persuade someone about something specific, something someone else has written, maybe a famous poem, a recipe, a picture book that they like, a few paragraphs of a favorite book. And then we said at the end, the cool thing is you can either reveal your identity or leave it a mystery. So this is a great platform if you're nervous about something you've written but you still want to share it. It's a great opportunity to share it but not reveal yourself. And another unique thing about reading on a podcast is since no one's going to see you, it needs to be engaging. So here's an example of someone who's engaging.
Twistable, turnable man. He's the twistable, turnable, squeezable, pullable, stretchable, foldable man. He can crawl in your pocket or fit in your locker, or screw himself into a 20-volt socket, or stretch himself up to the steeple or taller, or squeeze himself into a thimble or smaller. Yes, he can. Of course he can. He's the twistable, turnable, squeezable, pullable, stretchable, shrinkable man.
The author continues, but you get the idea. It's a very engaging reader. So the listeners really enjoy listening to that mystery reader. Next up is the opportunity to share what's going on in lab. What I think is difficult about such a big school is that even students in fourth grade aren't sure what's going on in other fourth grade rooms, and vice versa with third and fifth grade. So what I think is important is that we all share about what's going on in our classrooms. This is an example of Miss Suken's class last year featured in Lab Life. And then this is an example of a student just sharing about what's going on in her school, which I shared with the kids.
This is News for Kids from KVOA 4 and Bear Essential News.
Students at Lulu Walker Elementary have a great variety of after-school programs to choose from this year. The programs are free, educational, and enjoyable for kids in kindergarten through 5th grade. After school, Walker offers tutoring services in reading, math, and writing for students in every grade. There are special tutoring classes for students who need help in English. After the academics, kids can choose from programs like sports, dance, chess, computers, drama, yoga, Chinese, and more. These classes are taught by volunteers. Many students really enjoy these programs. This is Ruby Prescott from Walker Elementary for Bear Essential News.
So I suggested that kids share about field trips they've gone on, projects they're working on, something from Genius Hour, etc. Next up is Critics Corner. Now this is an opportunity for kids to share about restaurants they visited, just like how adults do using Yelp. I also said they might consider reviewing their grandma's apple pie or some food that they really enjoy that a family member makes. Another option is Busted, caught being kind, thoughtful, or responsible. I think it's an important way for kids to highlight what's going on in our community that's positive. So, for example, I might say something like this. Today, I overheard the nicest conversation between two third graders. One child was very upset about a missed pass during football. He felt like he really let his team down. His classmate put his arm around him and told him, even famous football players make mistakes. It's not a big deal. We had fun anyway. And I thought it was really kind. I gave this example and reminded the students that something special about it was that it was anonymous. I don't need to give credit to anyone. I just want to share that I noticed it and recognize something positive that's happening in our community. Okay, so those are the 6 things that the kids can participate in, the 6 topics. So how can they participate? There's a bulletin board outside of the library, which is only a couple feet away from the computer science lab. And it looks like this. There are 6 green compartments with papers in them. In this picture it's empty, but I've since filled it with applications. If students want to apply to be on the podcast, they need to complete these submission forms from the bulletin board. Next, they turn it into the lab lower school podcast basket, which is in the computer lab next to my desk. And lastly, if chosen, they will be asked to practice a lot, and then I will approve a time with their teachers, either during class, lunch, recess, or before school for the kids to participate. So I hope that you hear about this at home from your kiddos and that they're excited about it. I think it's a really great way for kids to be creators and producers of content, not just consumers. That's something that is a big focus for me in computer science and with technology integration. And I can't wait to share the first podcast with you.